Well, it sure has been an interesting week. Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, they've been playing a chess match for the ages regarding the subject of impeachment. This week we heard from 4 supposed constitutional scholars. Pelosi took to the media saying that they were going to draft articles of impeachment, and then President Trump just said, well, you know what, go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Jared Dyson, and this is the Closet Conservative Podcast. Well, this sure has been a busy week in the partisan sham inquiry that the Democrats are conducting. We've brought it up many times in discussion, but I think we've got to take a little bit deeper look this week as we focus on several of the key developments that have taken place. One of the first things that happened this week was the Judiciary Committee and their impeachment hearing. Now, Jerry Nadler was excited because he was finally getting to be part of the Trump impeachment. I mean, he sought this opportunity for so long. He was excited when Trump was elected. He thought, well, if we win the House back, we'll have the chance to impeach a president. And as soon as they got the House back, they started down that path. What I find really funny, though, is that I found a video that was from the hearing where apparently Representative Nadler fell asleep. I guess he was so excited the night before the hearing that he was like a small kid on Christmas Eve. No doubt he, like that little kid when they're excited about Santa coming the next day, Representative Nadler was so excited for the first day of the impeachment hearing he could not sleep that night. I mean, the only thing stopping him from impeaching Trump up to this point was Nancy Pelosi, and she's finally pulled back the reins and she said, have at it. So here we go. We go to the hearing, the Judiciary Committee. They bring in 4 academic instructors. Now, these were supposed to be constitutional scholars. That's what the mainstream media and that's what the Democrats were saying. They were going to focus on what the Constitution meant by the verbiage high crimes and misdemeanors. 3 of them were picked by Democrats and 1 was picked by Republicans. Now, I talked about this a little bit in an article on Thursday over at the website, how these scholars should be focused on the Constitution. They should be focused on what was really meant by the authors when they were framing the Constitution, but instead they were clouded by their personal bias. It's hard to be unbiased when you are a major Democratic donor. As you're sitting there and you're going through your statement, it's nothing but rehearsed rhetoric that the Democrats have been using for the past 6 months. Honestly, the hearing appeared scripted just as the Schiff hearing did in the House. I mean, it was almost a repeat word for word, very boring. Even one of the scholars, I found it very interesting, one of the scholars, as they've been sold, could not even get the year the Constitution was written correct. She referred to the Constitution as having been written in 1789, but it was actually written and signed in 1787. So much for that scholar thing, you know? This was the same scholar that decided to take a personal shot at President Trump's son. It was a tasteless act, but of course it's okay with Democrats because it's President Trump. The only one of the 4 that really stood out was Jonathan Turley from George Washington University. Now, his testimony did not go along with any of the Democratic talking points. So they immediately got on the phones, they called all their cancel culture bus friends, and they're attempting to take him down. They want GW's dean of the law school to remove him. It's just like their impeachment inquiry. I mean, if they don't like him, they're going to do anything they can to cancel him. They're going to try to remove him, just like they're doing to President Trump. He has said he's received multiple threats since his testimony on Wednesday, against his person, against his house, against his job. Why is that? He made one specific statement that I think is worth looking at right here, and it may be the very reason he's received those. He said, and I quote, "If the House proceeds solely on the Ukrainian allegations, this impeachment would stand out among modern impeachments as the shortest proceeding with the thinnest evidentiary record and the narrowest grounds ever used to impeach a president." You and I both know, we've been saying it for months, that there's no evidence here to impeach President Trump. That's what's needed, is evidence. If they had evidence that Trump had committed a crime, I would be the first one to say, I support it. Let's go ahead and impeach him. But there's no evidence. So he's saying that Democrats are not proceeding based on evidence, that they're simply proceeding based on allegations. That's exactly what he's saying right here. What's really interesting, though, is that Turley actually came out and said he didn't vote for President Trump. He said he didn't even support President Trump. He did not like the actions, but that there was not enough evidence there to impeach him. But the lack of evidence has not stopped Nancy Pelosi and the House from proceeding. On Thursday, Pelosi took to the media to release her statements that the House would proceed with drafting articles of impeachment against President Trump. This is certainly going to set an interesting precedent going forward. Anyone can simply say they believe something about someone, and that person can lose their job or be impeached. I mean, think about this. We have evidence that Obama mobilized the IRS against conservative groups, and that he sent firearms to criminals at the border, or just across the border in Mexico, and it resulted in the murders of Americans. We have actual evidence that those things occurred, and Obama could have been investigated, and he possibly could have been impeached over those. But the Democrats were not interested in that. In this Trump situation, we have only hearsay. Someone believes something in their own mind, not because there's evidence there, but because they overheard a phone call or overheard what they we're told was on a phone call, and there's no evidence. It's just whatever they decided in their own mind to drive a talking point. So the lack of evidence has not stopped Pelosi and the Democrats. They've decided to go full steam ahead in this path of articles of impeachment. I find it funny that immediately following her press conference, Pelosi was asked if she hated President Trump by a reporter. Pelosi became very upset at the question, and she said as a Catholic, she does not hate anyone. She said that she prays for the president. What I do find interesting here, though, is that as she's talking about praying for the president and praying for him every day, a lot of people on social media even talked about this, that she's using her Catholic faith as a reason to protect her from having to admit the truth, that she really does hate President Trump. But her faith has not caused her to change any of her other stances. You know, if you study the Catholic faith, they are very much anti-abortion. But Pelosi is an avid supporter of abortion. So her Catholic faith is only convenient to her when it applies to a situation in which she needs it. Then we get down to President Trump and his tweets, and boy, he was full of a lot of tweets this week. Amid a trip overseas, he came home, he attended the lighting of the national Christmas tree. Then Trump issued a challenge to the Democrats. He said, go ahead, hurry up, get this impeachment vote done. I cannot wait to get to a trial in the Senate. Why? He said he was going to have Adam Schiff, the Bidens, Pelosi, and all these other Democrats come and testify. He talked about how he was there to clean the swamp and that this would help show how corrupt the politicians in Washington are. He said he wants to get it going fast. It's a challenge to Pelosi. It's a challenge to these Democrats. Democrats should really be worried about these being put on the stands. Sure, they're probably not, though. They'll just simply say that they're not going to comply with the subpoenas, and they'll claim that they're following the president's precedent, but will the Senate allow it? I mean, you got to think about this. If Adam Schiff is forced to testify, there could be an investigation into the contact that his office had with the whistleblower, how much Schiff knew going into this, how much of a hand he played in drafting this letter by the whistleblower. I mean, heck, just think about it, the recent calls that were released. There's a potential abuse of power by Adam Schiff here. There's several things that could come out that Adam Schiff may be facing. Or what about the Bidens? What if they're forced to testify? There could be an investigation here into the corruption of the Bidens. We all know that Biden is the best candidate positioned to challenge Trump in 2020, but a corruption investigation would be the end of his campaign. Could this be why we've seen a recent flurry of entries into the race? Are the Democrats preparing for a Bidenless Democratic field? Either way you look at it, the Senate trial is going to be bad for Democrats. The House is going to vote to impeach Trump by Christmas, according to Nancy Pelosi. They will pass the articles of impeachment completely on party lines, just as they did the vote to open the inquiry. I think back to the statement by the representative from Ohio to Representative Naylor. Naylor's been in Congress seemingly forever. And back in the 90s, Naylor suggested that if impeachment was only favored by one party, then it should never be pursued at all. Times sure have changed in Jerry Naylor's mind. It's not a good idea to pursue impeachment if you like the person. But if you hate that president, you should just pull out all the stops, whether you have evidence or not. That's Jerry Naylor's motto, and that's the Democrats' motto. Of course, we all know how this is going to fail miserably in the Senate. The potential additional investigations should be the big concern here for the Democrats. I see trouble on the horizon for Biden. President Trump is not going to let this go. Former President Obama has shown a hesitancy to come out and support anyone in this race. Unless he comes to the rescue of Joe Biden in this situation with his son that happened while Obama was in office, Biden very well may be left out by his own party. So who is the biggest winner in all of this? Well, for one, I think it's President Trump, obviously. If he comes through all of this, if he goes through the Senate trial, let's say these other investigations start, he has absolutely secured another 4 years as president. He is still going to be hated by Democrats. There's nothing that's going to change that. They're going to hate him until the day he's out of office. But if the Republicans continue to support him, and if some of these investigations happen, independents are going to abandon the Democrats. The Democrats have made multiple promises on just several different occasions. Think back about the Mueller report and all these other things, the Russia hoax. And they've made so many promises and they failed to deliver on anything. They've yet to do anything to address any of the issues in America. They literally are the do-nothing Democrats. But I think the other winners, and it's really two together, is Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Now, you may think that comes from way off in left field, but I really do think they benefit here. They have been the driving force behind this social division that we see on the left. The have and the have-nots, the CEOs and the non-CEOs. They're the ones that's labeling these that have been successful or had success in life as evil. If Biden faces the scrutiny that I think he's getting ready to face, and with the negative press that's came out about Bloomberg, where they've talked about all of his houses, his planes, his helicopters, and all of his businesses and all of his money. He's just another President Trump, but on the left. I think that this really puts Sanders and Warren in a good situation. I mean, one of them very well may be able to step up and walk away with the nomination just simply based on the impeachment of President Trump. I understand there's a lot of variables at play here, but I really think that's one of the things that's worth watching. In the end, the showdown is coming in the Senate. I mean, it's going to be the Alamo, the OK Corral kind of showdown. I mean, it's going to be a major action film. I think about, those major action films, that you have that lead actor and apparently he or she is in a life-threatening situation, but you know that they're going to make it out of the movie. I mean, you've seen them walking the red carpet, you've seen the things taking place. Why would they kill the star role in the movie? It's that way with President Trump. We all know that he's making it out of the Senate without a conviction. The attention is all focused on these sideshows. It's all focused on these fight scenes. It's all focused on these times where he's in trouble. But in the end, he's going to make it out on the other side. The interesting part is what other investigations will open, what other information will come out. As Democrats continue to push forward on impeachment, conservatives can look toward the Senate trial. President Trump said he was there to clean the swamp. Just how much cleansing of the swamp will Trump do through the Senate? Well, for that you're going to have to stay tuned. Stay tuned to the Closet Conservative. We're going to keep you up to date and keep your eyes peeled. President Trump is not done.
This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. All material copyright The Closet Conservative. Music courtesy of Greg Shields Music. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to receive all the latest episodes. We can also be found online at closetconservative.net or on Facebook and Twitter.